Hey everybody, welcome to the D. Louise book series. I'm Christina, Kristina, and it's nice to meet you. I'm practicing. Kristina, name Kristina. And I've talked about these books previously a couple of times. So now we're actually going to do a read. And because we're going to do a read, and because there is so much to unpack. Hey, Casanova, ignore me. So anyways, there is so much to unpack in these books that I'm going to do them in pieces. I'm not just going to do the whole book and then spiel because it would just take forever. So because like some authors do scenery, some authors do this is full, completely full of information. Every line is information. So I'm gonna try and stick with the core cast at this juncture. I have 2 copies of this. Skye O'Malley, book 1. The series goes for the length of Skye's lifetime. So this is book 1, and for those of you who are Outlander fans, Skye takes place 200 years before. Skye starts in 1515, and we go from book 1 to book 2. Look how big this is. Book 3. Where's? Oh, this is 3. This is 4. 5, 6, 7. I believe Skye dies in 7. I'm not sure. And then we continue with her kids and grandkids. 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Wait a second. Oh, God. Okay, so we're going to start, because this is a very large cast. I am doing my spreadsheet here. And we start out in the, I hope you will join me for all of these books. I hope you will forgive me for breaking these down into chapters. I don't know how many videos we'll get out of this book as of yet. This is the first 7 chapters of the book, because there's a time break. So I consider the first 7 chapters part 1. And we will continue to make videos for the rest of the book. I hope you will join me in this series. I'm trying to do it justice. And I don't know a better way to do justice unless you wanted to sit here for a 3-hour video. And I wouldn't remember everything from the beginning chapter. So I really want to do a justice video. So we're going to do chapters 1 through 7 today. Skye's mother is Jesus, didn't I write her name down? Jesus, I didn't write her name down. They just call her Lady O'Malley. So Dubra, Dubhdara O'Malley is her father, and her uncle is Seamus, Seamus. And in the beginning of the story, they're telling Seamus is a priest, and he's telling Deborah, that he's been married to his wife for 10 years, and the woman has put out 10 children, and she cannot survive an 11th child. There's just no way in hell she will survive an 11th child. And Dub is upset because he needs a son to carry on the family name. He needs an heir. He needs a male heir. As you know, during this time period, they needed male heirs. So Skye has her sister Moore, Moire, is 10 years old when the book starts. Peggy, Peigi, is 9. Bride, Bride, is 7. Evelyn, who is one of the siblings that we will see consistently throughout the book, EIBHLIN. She's 4 when the book starts. Then we jump forward, but she joins the convent, and her father stays away from her mother for an extended period of time, and then can't resist himself one night, and the wife gets pregnant, and she gives birth to her only son as she dies. And the son is Michael, and he is destined to the priesthood. Shortly after the first wife dies, he marries Anne. The father marries Anne, and she becomes Skye's stepmother, and she is a significant character throughout the first book anyway. And she gives birth to 4 sons that will interact with Skye over the next couple of books. In fact, one of the brothers gets his own book. It's an in-between book. Would you believe it? She came back. She wrote a couple books, and she came back and she wrote this to fill in the spaces. This is an in-between, last-minute fill in the space. Look how thick this is. Look how thick. It's going to take a lot to unpack. So I always read them in order, and I always include this not in the date written, but in the chronological order of the series. So we'll do that. So her father is so her father arranged for her marriage at an early age, and he arranged it to a supposed wealthy individual, Dom O'Flaherty. And it turns out that Dom is a bully, is not a very good guy at all. So the second chapter starts as so let me back up here a minute. So Skye is the one child that bonds with her father, Dub, and he takes her out on the ocean and assists him in running his shipping business. So Skye learns the shipping business from an early age. But her father has also betrothed her at an early age to the O'Flaherty's. They're supposed to be a little on the wealthy side. It turns out that due to gambling and other extra activities, they're not. And so when in 1555, Skye is he's 18, so she's 15. Skye's 15 or 16. I wrote it down here. So they come for a wedding. We're gonna have a wedding in chapter 1. Skye is getting married, and her sister Moore is 25. Her sister Peggy is 23. bride is 21, Evelyn is 18, Sign is 16, and Michael, the final child, is 6, and Skye is 15. And the second wife has given birth to Brian, Shane, Seamus, and Khan, who's, I showed you his book over there. So they come for this wedding. And whilst they're preparing for the wedding, she meets Lord NIALL Burke. He's the McWilliams heir. And I believe it's going to take a lot of heart-wrenching. For those of you who like to cry like crazy, you will cry through the Skye books. Little disclosure here. 20 years ago, I had a tape recorder, and I tape recorded the entire book from because this is before audiobooks were really out, and I wanted one myself. And what I remember most about recording, it was only for me. It wasn't going to be for anybody else. No one else was going to hear it but me. And what I remember most about recording is that I cried through most of it. So there's a lot of me crying on the recording. So anyway, so she's betrothed to this guy, Dom, and she really doesn't like him, but she doesn't have a choice. And then at the wedding, one of the neighbors shows up, a guy she hasn't seen before, Lord NIALL Burke, and he is the McWilliams heir. And they may or may not eventually get married at some point. I seem to remember a different guy as the husband at the end. It takes a really, really long time. It might be NIALL, but I'm not sure. But I know it takes at least 4 books and at least 20 plus years. I'm not exactly sure. I'll have to, as we go along, we'll get to it. So I wanted to read page 12. I don't remember why. There is so much in this book. There is so much packed into there she goes. Every single video, she's got to go off. For the first time, her attention was drawn to the man by his side. My lord, she heard her father say, this is my youngest daughter, Skye, who will shortly be the bride of young O'Flaherty. Skye, this is NIALL, Lord Burke, the McWilliams heir. NIALL of Iron, she said softly. This was a famous man, the secret dream lover of half the maidens in Ireland. I see my reputation precedes me, my lady Skye. It is an open secret that you are Captain Revenge and that you conduct those daring raids against the English who live in Dublin Pale. Of course, no one would dare accuse you of this. Yet you, my lady, do not fear me, he murmured, holding her fast with his gaze until she blushed. So, she meets him and greets him, and Skye tries to talk to her father, and her stepmom, and her stepmom promises to talk to her father about getting her out of the marriage to Dom because she doesn't want to marry Dom. And Dom's father, Gilla, and Claire, his sister, are also at this event as they marry. And after they one of the sisters drugged Skye so she'll be compliant. That was something they did often during these days. They drugged to get compliance. So they drug Skye, and she ends up going through with their marriage. So NIALL decides that he's going to declare that he's got rights as the overlord. And O'Malley, as your overlord, I claim the droit du seigneur of this woman. The master of emphysema swallowed hard. A poor jest, my lord, he replied, now very sober. He was hoping to God that Burke was only drunk, but he knew Burke wasn't. My daughter's no peasant wench, she stated firmly. Lord Burke drew himself up to his full imposing height. His proud glance swept the room. I am your overlord, Deborah O'Malley. You swore obedience to me on my 10th birthday. It was by most generous hand that you received this barony of emphysema. Our laws demand that you comply with my request. No, Dom shouted. She's mine, mine. I am not your vassal. Lord Burke looked scornfully at the younger man. I will remind you, O'Flaherty, that your family owes obedience to my father, whose deputy I am. I claim the droit de jour of your bride. Will either of you gentlemen endanger your families and insult me over the girl's maidenhead? So he claimed Skye's virginity. And then what he hoped to do was, after him and Skye spent a really romantic evening together and she enjoyed it immensely, that he was going to demand, because she had committed adultery with NIALL, he was going to demand that Dom and Skye's marriage be annulled so that him and Skye can be married. However, things go, they kidnap, they have a boy climb upside the outside of the building and go in the window and unlock the door, and they take NIALL, they gag him, and they kidnap him and take him out of the house, the castle, and they ship him home. And and then they tell, lie. They lie to Skye and they lie to NIALL about what really happened. And while Skye spends the night with NIALL, Dom abuses her lady's maid. And so we don't see her again. But so because they want to make sure that Skye is not going to give birth to NIALL's kid, they send Skye to a convent for the month until her lady's stuff happens. She also has a dog at the convent, but we don't see much of him. He disappears. But so they tell Skye that Lord NIALL is marrying another lady, and they tell NIALL, they send him this letter, and it was probably written by one of her sisters, and not Skye. Skye did not write this. My Lord Burke, I have retired with my sister to the convent of St. Bride's on Innsbruck Island, where I shall pray to Our Lady that the shameful night we spent together bears no unhallowed fruit. What we did was wrong, and I can only hope and pray that my husband will forgive me. I beg you forget me. For the good of your soul, enter into Christian marriage with a good woman at the earliest possible moment. May God go with you always, Skye, Lady O'Flaherty. And Skye will make very prominent voices that if you knew her, if he knew, and he doesn't know her well enough to know, but Skye has declared over and over again that she's not O'Flaherty, she's O'Malley, and she will be ever O'Malley. So then she does return home. Her husband insists upon it's back up here. So NIALL gets married, but the lady that he was going to marry dies. So in retrospect, the family gives him the girl's sister, and the girl's sister is destined to be a nun and is, massively, solely focused on being a nun. She wants no part of physical relations with NIALL. NIALL has to take her a few times because he wants an heir, and then he finally just gives up, and they never have relations again. In chapter 5, Uh, they go to a Christmas party, and it is about 7 to 9 months later, and Skye is with child. Of course, Niall's wife is not with child. Of course, they have been abstinent. Um, she talks with her stepmom, and her stepmom says that her I don't know where that page is, but she says that her husband is horrible and her house is horrible. Her husband is broke. Any money that he's making, he is gambling away or spending on other women. The house is in disrepair. Um, she says, my home is in shocking state of disrepair, and despite my fine dowry, um, there's been no money spent on the house. The household items she brought with her have been stolen. She will eventually find them. And her mother says, well, why don't you come home and have the baby here? And she says, no, because it's a O'Flaherty. It must be born in the O'Flaherty house. But can my sister come, the nun, and help me out? And when her sister, her and Niall finally have a chance to speak, and she says, he's telling her, I was not betrothed to Dara O'Neill until after your marriage, Skye. It was her dead sister, Seat, who was supposed to be my wife. Again they separated by the figure. When they met again, he said, I would never have wed Dara had not been for your letter. Skye stooped dead. What letter? She demanded of him. One look at her face told Niall Burke that something was very wrong. But they were in a room full of people, so some of whom were eyeing them with speculative curiosity. But of course you're exhausted in your condition, Lady O'Flaherty. Allow me to escort you to a seat and get you some chilled wine. He said loudly, leading her from the floor. He found her a seat with a windowed alcove. Though they plainly visible to the entire room, they had privacy to talk without being overheard. Niall snatched 2 goblets of wine from a passing valet and handed her one. Understanding the need for deception, she leaned back with half eyes closed, feigning exhaustion. Her heart was hammering, not from weakness, but from the sudden realization that they had probably been tricked. What letter? She asked. I did not leave you willingly, Skye. Your father sent a little lad up the vine outside your window, and the boy opened your bedchamber door to the O'Malley and his men. I was gagged and taken for the room. I explained our plight to your father, but he would not listen. He'd rather knock me unconscious and take me home by one Captain Maguire. The next day I was given a letter in which you repudiated your relationship. For God's sake, Skye, the handwriting was feminine. I recognized the seal as one of your own. We all have these rings, Niall, all my sisters, even Evelyn. I did not know, he sighed. It would seem, my love, that these 2 old spiders, our fathers, have gotten away with foul means. Damn them both. Do you love her, Niall? No. She was supposed to be a nun, and in her heart she still is. She spends more time on her knees than in our bed. I am glad. The child, it storms. There is no doubt, Niall. I swear. Do you think I would be here if it was not? So they learned that they were tricked. Then Claire just goes to talk to her husband. Well, actually, she goes to talk to her sister-in-law. She wants to go have it out with the lady and tell the lady that she really, really needs to get married. And she goes up to her sister-in-law's bedroom. Not only does she find all of her belongings that were stolen, the candlesticks, her jewelry, all of her stuff that was stolen from her, but she also finds her husband in bed with his sister, having a very rigorous relationship situation. And the sister is so bonkers that she convinces the brother to force Skye to participate in their incestuous situation. Stuff happens and Skye tries to flee. Dom goes after her and he falls down the stairs and is hence paralyzed. Skye decides she's going to go home. If her sister-in-law is so in love with her brother, her sister-in-law can take care of her husband, and she will take her two children, her first two children, Ian, E-W-A-N, and Morrow, M-U-R-R-O-U-G-H, home with her. When she gets home, oh, I got this itch. When she gets home, she discovers her father is ill, and in front of witnesses, the Uncle Seamus, and her stepmother, her father declares her the O'Malley, and that means she is now in charge of the shipping fleet, and she will go out to sea and leave her sons with her stepmom, I believe. And then she learns later on that her husband has passed away, and before that, let me go back to the fact that Niall says that they can be married, and she says that after what happened with her sister-in-law and her husband trying to force her into a incestuous situation, that she cannot jump right back into the bed. She needs some time to recover from the rape. And then her father, she takes her father's fleet away, I lost my place here. So Niall's wife decides to leave, and Niall will divorce his wife, and he hopes that him and Claire, I can't get this itch, him and Claire will be able to get together, but we do not know that as of yet. Neil's father apologizes to him for forcing him into such a tragedy of a marriage and, having no heirs as of yet, and he gives him permission to marry Skye, and we will have to see what happens. They make a pact. The wounds are still new, and I, in my happiness, have foolishly assumed you would share my joy at the prospect of our being together again. Forgive me, my love. You have suffered 2 wicked shocks, and now you're burdened with an awesome responsibility. You will need time to adjust, and you shall have it, sweetheart. Her lashes were silken smudges against her pale skin. A great wave of pity washed over him as 2 crystalline tears slipped from her beneath her closed eyes and down her cheeks. He wanted to reach out and fold her in his arms, comfort her, wipe away all the terrible hurt, but he stood with clenched fists and fought to maintain a rigid control of himself, lest he frighten her and risk losing her forever. Finally she spoke. I love you, Niall. I have never loved anyone. I know, Skye, and that is why I will wait. What? Her wet jeweled eyes flew open. Yes, my precious love, wait. In the time the terror will fade, and when it does, I will be here, Skye. Be it a month from now, or a year, or 10 years. You will need an heir, Niall. Your father wants one very much. You will give me one someday, my love. You're mad. But a small smile played at the corners of her mouth. Not mad, my darling, simply in love with a wild and sweet vixen who will eventually come home to me again. Suddenly she held out her hand to him. He grasped it and felt her tremble. She did not pull away. Give me time, Niall. I will come back to you. I know now that I will. Just give me time. So, chapter 7 starts with, a year has passed and Dom died. His death, though sudden, was not unexpected. With the loss of his legs, he had lost his will to live. Claire O'Flaherty, the sister, disappeared shortly after the visit of an English cousin, and Gilly remained at Ballyhennessey, a sad shadow of his former self, content to spend his days and nights in drunken haze. The estate was well managed by Franks, the bailiff. So please come continue with me tomorrow, or actually the next day, as we continue the next several chapters. We'll do it as they break. So this is the first uh, 15, 20 years of Skye's life. Oh, so I got this itch. Sorry. Um, so this is the first uh 3 years. So she's 18 now. So she'll be about 20 in chapter 7, and she's been out at sea for a year. So please stick with me as we continue our journey with this book. Like I said, there's a lot to unpack, and I want to talk about it all. So please hit the like and subscribe. Don't forget to join me for Flashback Mondays and Star Trek Fridays and If Then Fridays. And of course, my daily book reviews. And we will be doing Victoria Thompson and James Patterson and a few others while we do Skye O'Malley. Thank you. Have a good one.